Good morning, everybody. Afternoon, perhaps, in Hawaii. This is Philip with a quick update. Just wanted to share with you guys a few things I've noticed going on and some of the concerns that have been relayed to me. So let's get started. All right, here is the most recent map from the USGS, dated 10 a.m. June 5th. What we see here, this newest map, is showing essentially the flow field as it appeared earlier today. The lava is all coming from Fissure 9, flowing northeast, all the way to Kapoho, mostly around the north side of the cone, filling Kapoho Bay, but also around the south side, impacting vacation land, just as John Stallman mentioned was going to happen to us yesterday. So, all right, guys, thanks for watching. Just starting here. Starting off with a map update here. This is the most recent map that's been put up by USGS, 10 a.m. June 5th, showing the flow field. Here's Leilani, where all this activity began, and the main fissure, which has dominated the eruption, fissure number 8. Here it is. This little dotted white line shows a lava tube, or the lava channel. I mean, probably hasn't crusted all the way over yet, so it's still actually an open channel that's flowing off in this direction. You see there's several branches. The main branch, most of the lava is going off in this direction. It splits and comes together again in this kind of narrow area. Then the funnel is right around Kapoho, right around Kapoho Cone, Green Mountain, as it is. Here's where it went into Green Lake. And overnight, the real devastation that's really shocked most of us has been in the area of Kapoho. Kapoho Bay is completely gone. USGS reports about a 0.7 mile additional land beyond the old coastline has formed. This area was a little bit shallow, but that's still very, very impressive and intimidating. How much lava is coming out to be able to do that quickly overnight. Vacation lands as well. That subdivision has been largely destroyed. There's a small little pocket right in here that hopefully will survive, but we'll have to wait and see. That's definitely been a big story of the day, has been the impact of the lava flow on these two communities of Kapoho beach lots and vacation land right here. I haven't heard exact counts, but there were a lot of houses in there. So I feel really bad for all those people right in here and in here. The flow is still flowing strong. It's not showing any signs of stopping anytime soon. There's still a lot of lava coming out of the fissure. Fissure number 8, here it is. Reports are that fountains are diminishing a little bit, but that happens naturally. They kind of go through cycles of increasing and decreasing. So we can't take that short-term decrease as any indication of anything changing with eruption, at least not yet. So we have to assume that this is still pumping just the same as it has always been, feeding a lot of lava down into the system, and this is going to continue. So we can expect this flow front to actually expand to the sides, kind of fill in this area. It'll probably spread out down over here as well. One thing that's come up is this question of the steepest descent, and people are kind of wondering how much we can trust these blue lines and what's going on with the direction of the flow. And one thing to point out before is the blue lines are the areas where we know that the downhill is the steepest, and areas in between them are the higher, that kind of rises, little ridges where lava has more trouble getting over. But what I haven't said explicitly yet is that in these areas kind of above where the blue line ends, these are flatter areas, like in here, or as occurred down in here before this eruption covered it over, or around here in Kapoho as well, right? These areas kind of, here's another one of those zones right here. See, we're above the blue lines. That means the ground is too flat to actually show any steepest descent. This is an area where the flow can actually spread out, and then it can go in any one of these directions. So just to kind of recap how these lines are created, what the scientists do is they run simulations of lava flow, building land, and changing the topography, because that's the real issue here, is when this flow becomes 20 or 40 feet tall, then it's changing the whole landscape dramatically to the point where what's downhill is been altered, right? So let's say that this rise in between these two drainage areas is only 40 feet tall, then suddenly if the flow is that tall as well, then this is no longer a basin. You see what I'm saying? So areas like this where there are no blue lines, especially right uphill, right above where these blue lines end, these are all the flatter spots there and there. And here was one, and over here as well, where lava flow is actually able to spread out, right, and then move in all directions like a big fan, like what happened over here outside of Kīlauea. So the blue lines still apply, but when you have this much lava and it's piling up that tall, that's what happens. It can actually spread out and take out multiple of these areas. So when the flows are smaller, then obviously these lines are much more, I don't know, what's the word? I mean, the flow is likely to hold to those lines much more. But once it actually hits a flat spot and spreads out, then it can actually jump and take several of those areas, you know. So downhill is still downhill. There's been some question about this little area right here in Kīlauea Cone and Green Lake. People were wondering how lava could have possibly flowed into the crater, right? And the key thing is to notice this kind of dark spot. That's the high ground. That's the actual crater edge, right? This thing formed from explosions that came from this hole over here that threw stuff in the air, and it all fell kind of down to the sides, downwind. This is direction up here is upwind, the wind blows from this way, right? It's also the easiest path downhill and out. So there was actually a gap, and this is pretty typical of lots of cinder cones in the lower elevations of Hawaii, right? Almost everything in Kīlauea. It's different when you go up Mauna Kea and other areas like that. But down in Kīlauea, where we all have the trade wind pattern, is the strongest pattern we have, and most of our cones actually have this horseshoe shape like that, right? And almost always they point open to the northeast, just like this one is. So the flow actually came around, hit a low spot right here, and flowed downhill, believe it or not, all the way into this lowest spot of it right here. That's why it hasn't filled up any of this upper area right here. All this upper gray and white area is all slightly higher ground and this little gully that formed right at the edge of the crater. So lava actually flowed downhill around this corner and into here, and it's filling this lowest pit. So once that actually is, and you know, just to recap, this is a very, very tiny finger of all the grand scheme of this flow field. So I've had some questions about whether that could impact the eruption as far as taking up some of the lava to kind of end eruption, and absolutely not. Absolutely not. There's so little lava, you can see the area of that compared to all the other ones. That's just like almost like a novelty, you know, and it touches our hearts because that was a place that many of us loved. It was a special place, Green Lake, that was in that crater, the area surrounding it as well. And of course, not to mention the champagne ponds, the tide pools, Kīlauea Bay, the area all through here, Kīlauea beach lots. This area is from 10 a.m. So we've seen pictures that basically this whole area, the lava is going into the ocean all the way down to here as well. Right? So unfortunately, it looks terrible. It looks like most of these communities are devastated. There's a little patch of houses still remaining right up in here, and you hope for the best for those guys. But you see this flow is also spreading out to the side, right? So it doesn't look good. I hate to say it. For anyone who still has houses standing in this area, it doesn't look good. Okay, so just to point out on this map, these kind of purplish areas, this is a flow from 1960, so that's not part of the current eruption. 55, so that was also a previous eruption going over here. You can see this new flow kind of came right in between them and kind of filling that whole area in between there. Right, so that's kind of what's going on there. And just to recap, there's areas. Let me pull up an older map here. Let's pull up an older map and look at these lines of descent. So just a minute. Let's find the oldest one we can get here. All right, let's try this one. All right, so this map back from May 27th. What's that, about a week ago, believe it or not? Hard to imagine what's happened in a week, right? So, okay, this is the flow that from here actually went to the north, and here's a big flat area where it filled in and kind of jumped across to this next basin, right? And just to recap what I said earlier, when these blue lines end here and here, that means above this area, it's too flat, right? There's no guarantee the flow is going to go in any particular direction to follow any descent. So the amount of lava coming out has been so huge that it kind of flooded this area. Once it hits that flat spot, it basically can spread in all directions. It did. It went both this way and hit that line going that way. And the flow came around over here right? Look at the flow line going around Kapoho Cone. Look at how the topography actually drains down. It actually takes a right turn right around here, right? I'm kind of try to get it closer in here. You guys can see this picture of the crater beforehand. Look at that low gully right there. Right there, yeah. That's where the lava flow came around. It came around this way, wrapped around through that little gully, and came in and filled this little low spot right in here. You see those two craters. Those are the ones that have been filled by lava. All right, so maybe that helps to clarify how that actually happened. The lava is still flowing downhill. I mean, it's hard to believe that that is downhill, but it actually is. There's a little low spot right through there that goes in there and fills that crater. Okay, Les, okay, so I see your comment that the area is not flat, but what I'm saying is it's flat enough that you can't predict with any confidence which direction the flow is gonna go downhill, okay? So when a flow is 40 feet tall, if the ground here is less than 40 feet tall, then it doesn't matter how tall the ground is. It doesn't matter what the topography actually is. All right, so when a flow is that big and it's spread out to the sides, that's why it's jumping across, you know, like that's why there's no blue line drawn right here. If it was steep enough, this blue line would actually go all the way up to here, right, or all the way up to here. And that's not exactly the case. Okay, so I'm not saying the ground is flat. Obviously, that's not true. The ground isn't flat anywhere in Hawaii, just about anywhere really. But the fact that the flow has actually jumped over, you know, I'm trying to tell you guys that this is how this analysis works. What the scientists actually do is they run a simulation thousands of times saying, okay, if the flow builds up to a certain height and spills over, which way is it likely to go? So these blue lines don't necessarily mean exactly the most downhill, but it's the most likely path of descent given that uncertainty of lava flow that it comes through, right? So thanks, Les. I mean, I don't mean to say that the ground is actually flat there. What I mean to say is there's not enough topography. The lava flow is guaranteed to go in a particular area. All right, Les, we'll talk later. Okay, so anyways, the blue lines do hold true. Let's go back to the previous map. So here's what happened, just to recap. The flow from 8 came up around here. Here's the area where it jumped actually right through here. It came down the road and managed to get this other drainage over here. And here we go. The flow came around, went downhill into the cone, and all the way to the east Kapoho Bay and Vacation Land. So okay, that's the situation right there. Speaking of the fissures themselves, fissure number 8 is the one that's the most active, but there have been a lot of reports of fissure 9 and 20 and 24 steaming as well, right in here. Whoops. What did I do? Going back. All right, 9 and 24. Right in here. So those fissures right here are actually steaming. We've heard reports, people say lava's coming out. The pictures I saw this morning at dawn didn't actually show any glow, so I haven't confirmed that that's the case, but we should expect that lava could come out of these areas at some point fairly soon as well. I don't know if it actually has yet or not. All right, so, but we want to watch out for that. The flow isn't coming out yet, as far as I know, or if there is, there's not a whole lot of lava coming out. And it'll be interesting to see how that actually affects how much lava is coming out of fissure number 8. So from there, if it does start flowing, it could actually fill in a low area in this direction. There's a ridge over here, but it also could go off in this direction over here. So that's why we're still concerned about this what remains eastern part of Leilani over here. All right, so let's talk about the summit now. So there were a lot of earthquakes yesterday, especially last evening and some this morning as well. Here's a map for the last day of the earthquakes that have occurred, mostly up here in the summit region. And a notable one down in an area over here that I believe that was like a 2-something, maybe 2.4. And along with that, there were explosions that happened at the summit as well. So let's look at what the USGS has got here. Nope. So kind of just to recap, this is the old picture, but just showing the sequence of the crater growing, collapsing, right? So that's still going on, and especially over here, with that much ground sinking, collapsing, we can expect these earthquakes to go on for a while still. And okay, look at our tilt plot. So it's interesting, we actually had an explosion signal that did not change the ground level over here, and another one earlier today over here. There's some ambiguity of the times what's going on over here, but It seems like this was actually the big ash explosion, and something else happened over here that I'm not quite sure. All right, so what else can we show you guys? As far as okay, footage, so the webcams are still up, and you can see how there's not a huge steam plume coming out of the crater right now. Yeah, and that's why we're going to keep having these explosions, right? There's a whole bunch of rubble down there. It's kind of blocking the path of the steam out. It doesn't get out as easily as it used to. So it's building pressure, and that's going to cause a blast to keep happening. And one interesting thing I posted on my feed is that the USGS just put up a YouTube live feed of the crater. I've paused it here so I don't kill my bandwidth, but you can look for this online. They actually have a live stream of the crater now, so you guys can see these explosions that happen in real time without having to wait for an update of the webcam. Looking at the Leilani webcam, let's see if we can get that to load. We do believe there is still ponding happening in the area of Fissure 8. The flow, the walls of that pond are still quite high, in order of 40 feet, maybe more. So see, there's our fountain, still happening right in there. There's a big flow going off this direction, and if you look at night, this flow is just pumping massive still. So that's still going. And yeah, the concern is that how much lava is in this high area. For now, it's all getting funneled down in this direction. But let's say something fails on one back side of it over here, then it's going to really flood Leilani really fast. So that's what the big concern is for Leilani, and we hope it doesn't happen. We hope we just keep warning, it never happens. But it's definitely a real threat. So that's why the area of Leilani is still so impacted. Okay, so I'm gonna keep it kind of brief today. So let me see if I can scroll back to any other questions that I might have missed and address those that I can. And I'll have to do this again sometime soon. All right. Okay, Nana Valley. Let's talk about Nana Valley. Let me go back to the map. All right, so there have been some reports, not shown on this map as much, but of a little bit of lava still erupting along the margin of this flow right up here, right through here. Right, so this flow is not dead by any means. Most of the flow is actually branching off to the northeast in this direction, but some amount is also coming through here and filling this area over here as well. So for now, the threat remains. The lava is going to come to this area. It could actually keep going downhill this direction over here. What we've been warning about is really the breach of flow. Where if something happens where this ground gets filled in, then Nana Valley gets more at threat. So for now, that threat doesn't quite exist. At least it's not imminent, because all this has got to happen and fill in that area first. But as we've been saying, much of this area up here has already been filled in, right? So it doesn't have nearly as much work to do that, to get over that high rise and get flowing towards Nana Valley in this direction. And that's why I'm urging you guys to be prepared. I hope it doesn't go that direction at all, but you should be getting prepared just in case something does change in short notice. All right. The impact for now is mostly still the smoke and the fog coming from the edge of this flow up here in this direction over here. Right? And of course, people who live in Va'ava'a in this direction are more concerned, because if this flow branch does become more active, it's going to be able to follow this path off in this direction over here. Right? So I know a lot of people are down in the area keeping a close eye on this. So let's see. All right, 24, we don't know if it's exactly, it's active in a sense where it's putting out more gas. Here, 24 and 9, more gas, and it may well be putting out lava very soon, or even as I speak. I don't know that for sure, but I do know that number 8 is the one that's the main vent here for this eruption to date. So because all the other vents have basically shut down, it wouldn't be surprising if lava starts coming out from here and here as well. But the long-term development that's going to be probably more important is if it doesn't happen and it kind of stays fixed at 8 for the rest of the eruption, and that has some implications as far as how the eruption can actually change coming out of that vent. All the fountains we've seen so far have been in the order of, maybe 300 feet or so at highest, maybe taller in certain bursts, certain jets. But that, in the grand scheme of things, is not nearly as big as what happens in the pass of Kīlauea. So Pu'o'o has actually put out lava fountains as high as 1,800 feet or so. Kīlauea was 1,900 feet. Mana'ulu, similar, 1,800 feet. So 400 feet is gigantic, but it's not nearly close to the capability of what Kīlauea can do. In order to do that, it basically has to be able to pressurize like a geyser in a sense, right? It has to build pressure to spray up, and then it kind of takes a break, and then it starts up, takes a break. So the longer eruption goes on, then that becomes more of a possibility. So far I've been saying that I didn't think that was going to happen. The longer this goes on with a fissure just in one spot, then it becomes more and more possible. But we'll see. It seems like the path out of the 8 is very well established. Like there's nothing kind of blocking it to allow it to kind of do this start and stopping fit. We do know the ground is moving all through here as well, right? There's reports of cracks happening in the area. Even as far north as Kīlauea. Those are probably earthquake damage, right? From all the ground moving all around here, as well as the earthquakes from the summit affecting the whole area. So that's going to keep happening. There's going to be more earthquakes. We're going to probably feel a lot more of those as the summit vent is actually clogged. We're probably going to have more and more of those explosions that people can feel all across. But as far as cracks that lava is going to come out of, I'm still holding that it's going to likely keep to this pattern right here. So if a crack opens up somewhere in Kīlauea, for example, it's not likely a lava crack. It is a crack from earthquake damage, more than likely. The other thing I want to check, I haven't seen this on a map at all, but it's the direction of these cracks. If it keep in this kind of northeast direction, then it's likely a part of the rift zone. If a crack is in any other direction, it's probably something else settling from the earthquake as well. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. All right, so okay, let's see, the east end of Leilani. Where the blue lines go through. Okay, so go back in here. So this area of Leilani over here is stuck between a ridge, an older ridge, right, part of the rift zone, and this new ridge of the lava flow here itself. So this is a little basin right in here. So for now, I know all these homeowners are very nervous about what's going to happen in this area, and we can't really know. The threat's still there that lava can come in this direction and fill in. Fortunately, all lava from 8's been going off over here, because if it had breached to this direction, it would fill this area pretty quickly. And that's still the big concern, is how much lava is kind of held above ground within this pond and this channel up here. So, it's probably better to call it a channel than a pond, because it's moving constantly, right? But it's kind of flowing off in this direction, and that's why we're so scared of anything breaking off anywhere to the side over here, or even down in this direction over here. And we just don't know. We can't predict that at all. We just have to wait and see. So there have been reports. People say they've seen pictures of lava coming out of 2024 and 9. That may well be true. I haven't seen them myself. I won't be surprised if it happens. If it's happening now, in fact. But I just personally haven't seen them. That's all I'm saying. So, all right. When does a crack become a fissure? So a fissure is just a crack that lava is coming out of. That's the only difference, really. All right, so, cracks form all over the place, but the magma has to use the crack to come out for it to be a fissure. That's the big difference. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up here. If you have any more questions, you can message them to me, or you can add them to the comment feed on this video, and I'll try to address them when I can. I'm not sure when I'll be able to do the next live one, but I'll do it as soon as I can, I promise. So thanks, guys. Thanks for watching. Good luck for everyone out there. Oh, one last thing I wanted to mention is there's been, obviously, in the news, big eruption happened in Guatemala. A lot of deaths. We all feel terrible about that, and I just want to send our condolences to everyone over there who's dealing with that disaster as well. One thing about Hawaii is that as much devastation as this flow has caused, as far as we know, there's been no loss of human life, right? The flows are moving quickly for people, but not so quickly that people can get out of the way. So that's what we have to be thankful about here. but still, you know, it's terrible to see what's happening in Guatemala. We've talked a little bit about how those volcanoes are a little different than Hawaii volcanoes, but still, it doesn't change the tragedy that just happened. So, I just want to mention that. Our hearts are also going out to Guatemala. So, all right, everybody, I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks for your support. One other thing, I have been posting my videos now on a YouTube channel that I've linked to my Eruption Lens app page. So if you guys are interested in sharing this with people who don't use Facebook, I know I've got some family that's interested in that as well, then I have those videos up until before this one all on YouTube already right now. All right, so thanks everybody. Aloha.